Life is art reality everywhere you get your social. What is up, guys? We're here getting into deep insights and we're always connected. So, I'm going to be talking a lot about this in this episode here. Life is art reality wherever you are social, wherever you get your podcasts. Life is art real on X, now on Instagram and Threads as Life is Art Reality. lifeisartreality@gmail.com. So thanks for tuning in to Life is Art Reality and all of these insights that I want to bring you. It's been really crazy and so much to learn. And the hugest insight overall is that productivity is really just hands-on living ultimately at the end of the day, and that life design is more of a metaphysical aspect of life that is very much in the background running as you are. It's kind of on autopilot as you are living your life. And so the first insight in this huge awakening that we're going to get into is applied learning. And so one of the things after really being in and out of homelessness, taking care of past families, letting go of responsibilities that were not mine, getting into taking care of my own and really being involved in what that entails. One of the things that I struggled with was applied learning, even for myself. And I think that's what's been holding me back from connecting with you more on a deeper level, is holding back from content, because I almost thought of content as like this external thing, this sort of like entertainment, luxurious, only when you have time, no responsibility, no interruptions, only when you have the time to enjoy it. It's kind of like you're just sort of wasting your time watching something else, watching somebody else, enjoying too much of downtime. It's like this abstract thing. Don't watch movies. Don't do any of this stuff because you're distracted. Like it's all this external distraction content, right? And over the past couple of years, I've kind of went on and off of this rant, and you may have kind of watched and listened to me preach about this, but one of the things that I recognize is that life itself, as we create humans, as we create designs, as we create art, as we create moments, time, food, drinks, all of these things, like life is composed of creating content, but the internet is just a place where it's a lot more integrated. The TV is a place where it's kind of all around you. It's been all around us for years now. Radio is always on in the background, and content, depending on how deep you go into it, newspapers have always been right there to ingest and enjoy. And so, like, all life itself is composed of creating and intertwining into content. Life itself is content. And so applied learning is really the strategy, the key strategy to all of this. Everybody that I feature on this podcast with show notes, links, audio clips, book reviews, all of this is because they have been people very powerfully that I've been able to use in applied learning, which means that over 15 and a half years worth of connecting with these people in kind of a relationship of audience and sort of teachers, or audience and mentors, or masterminds at work here, training and recruiting people, right? We're all connecting in this way, and we are all an interdependent society. We are all, that's what runs our society, is being interdependent. And so being connected like this is really magical in this way, really artistic, really beautiful, because what we can learn is that life itself is composed of content. And so I'm always encouraging as a parent that children really need their own applied learning outside of their parents, outside of school, outside of religion, all the things. If it gets deeper, they will get into their own preferences, and they might end up extremely religious, extremely atheist, extremely school oriented and academic minded, and really thrive in a school environment where maybe the parents are thriving in an online work environment. Like myself, I did what I was told in school for so long. I built up my skills, got out, unlearned all of that, and now I'm in an online work environment. And for myself, that's the kind of mind that I have. But as a parent, I understand that children could be completely different as school grows with them every day, and they could decide that online is only part of what's going on, and that school is mainly their own foundation, or church is mainly their own foundation, where their parents might have their own foundation in being atheist or being spiritual in other ways outside of all of this. But that we're actually pretty connected in a perplexed way, if you really think about it. So like multifaceted, it is very fascinating. Multi forms of being fascinated are really interesting, and being at this level of understanding where everything is ambi, omni, the multifaceted nature of integrating church with other forms of spirituality, or integrating sort of religion on the right with religion on the left, and really coming from a place of pure integration, integrating Jesus with Buddha as kind of a light theme to this is like really the key here. And it's really kind of cool that we can do this kind of thing, integrating LGBT with spirituality to bring more of a really connected support for that is a really key. And all this kind of stuff. So I want to get into habits that I've learned over the last 15 years from books, from videos, from podcasts, news feeds, etc., where, you know, you're told to kind of do these things on a very strict level. And I want to like teach why this doesn't actually have to be very strict. It can actually be fun as you're getting things out of it, and you can kind of turn the volume up and down as you need to. So calendar blocking will be my first thing, because it's actually the most laughable. People laugh at this the most. But with calendar blocking for a long time, actually a main habit of mine helped me to get out of like certain bad habits of drinking. Because with calendar blocking, I had to really start to take into account of how I was spending my time and why. And even just starting at a very basic level of setting reminders for in the morning that I knew I needed to follow, and that if I drank too much, they were going to turn into overlapping, overdue. The to-do list was going to get a lot longer, a lot more chaos, etc. Into the calendar blocking of like seeing how time is being managed. That can kind of be integrated within your own mind after a certain point, and things could be very much that would have seemed repetitive if you're trying to make some sort of like very strict routine over it, could be very much integrated into your own mind of the things and the time that you manage without using an external calendar. It could very much become your internal clock, your internal alarm clock. I definitely have mastered sleep, and I've mastered fertility when I was younger. And so having an internal body clock is a lot more powerful in productivity, and a lot more underrated, and probably a lot less popular than having all these all-in-one apps. And I'll get to all-in-one apps. But that definitely, a morning routine. I've read a book on morning routines and watched a lot of content around morning routines because I really wanted to get serious about having and harnessing my day more and having my time in the morning. And I do this now internally because some of these habits have become so ingrained that I will get up between 1 to 2 hours before some of the family wakes up, and then sometimes we all need to wake up earlier. So again, here's the part where you're turning the volume up and down. I will strive to have an hour or two to myself most mornings, but there are a lot of mornings too where the family, we need to share those mornings and have the extra time to get involved in what's going on with our life, in talking, in even things like watching a movie or doing, catching up on a lot of homework. Because one thing that I've definitely learned in being a parent is to optimize the way in which we teach routines to our children. I do it very differently and let a lot of life lessons be learned from routines rather than enforcing so much repetitive routines that children tend to rebel from. I let it be more of a learning process rather than a routine. Let's learn why it's important to get good sleep by seeing what it's like not to get good sleep, for instance. Let's learn what it's like to put sleep and dinner and family time and getting out of the house after school and doing things and getting all of that as a break from school, and learn to put sleep and rest and well-being first and wake up in the morning fresh, ready to do some homework at home. Things like that I think matter a lot in learning how you best work, because getting up in the morning and doing homework is a lot more motivating than after school, after having a long day, still having more of the day to do, maybe going out for a nice dinner, maybe going outside, maybe going grocery shopping, maybe ordering food online and watching movies and resting, maybe napping a little bit and making sure that rest is come into play, etc., right? But like having a lot of these things, not having to stick with the things that we were taught as kids, but doing things differently as parents ourselves now is like really important. And so another thing, getting into the all-in-one and kind of the life design here, this really is a volume dial that turns up and down in measuring how often and how much do we put our lives into apps and notebooks and index cards and all the things, because this is where productivity can get pretty messy and it could seem pretty strict and we can burn out. And so my favorite app that I do find myself using and sharing with the family, there's only a few apps that we all share as a family. We share email and go through the email together as a family. We manage it and keep track of a lot of daily life through email, more than I ever thought we would, which includes school, finance, all the things, receipts, all the kind of things, our management of our phones, our housing, all these kinds of things, work, payments, paychecks, all these things. Calendar, we kind of manage to a very casual degree now, because like I said, building your calendar blocking habit will eventually give you an internal body clock instead of an actual external calendar. So, but managing a calendar throughout the year for occasions can be a little bit helpful. I tend to do a little bit of that myself and organize time around a big event throughout the year, or maybe putting something in as a place that we would go on a recurring basis to get into the habit of that, and then change as needed somewhat on a more in the background level. And so a third app that we share and manage life through is Apple Notes. This is huge because we do creative work, financial work and our daily life in Apple Notes, and it's a huge help for sharing and managing all the things, and I can access it on devices outside of Apple as well, on the web, like my computer especially, if I want to, but mostly on my phone, because I think productivity nowadays should be a lot more thought of as mobile, and can be a lot more useful being a mobile, on the go, take with you kind of a thing, rather than sitting plugged into a computer all day. I've done my best work, I've made my most money when I'm on my phone on the go, rather than being plugged into a computer. To be honest, I've done pretty bad being plugged into a computer. I have managed to make some money being plugged into a tablet environment, but even then I was taking that tablet and working in an office and going home and working there as well. A few years ago when my daughter was a baby. And so that kind of stuff really matters a lot and is thought of differently now than I think before, especially the way that we use technology. And so that's kind of the default thing. Notion, ClickUp, things like the structured, that whole system, things like maybe Apple Reminders as an integration into Apple Notes could definitely be part of the life design. And all of these things come into play as more tool agnostic parts of productivity that can sometimes be extremely helpful for me and other times aren't really necessary, and just kind of enjoying that process, learning a lot about Notion now as well as I advance technology. AI, of course, is always on. We're always using AI as a family, so that's always in the background. That's always a part of us. Things like ChatGPT, more than just ChatGPT nowadays, because ChatGPT has gotten a lot more corporate and slower, and so we use a lot of other AIs as well. AI art, AI music, all the time. That's how I do a lot of my content on my podcast with AI music, and a lot of my videos is starting to, although I do put out music that I love to listen to, that I want to showcase from my favorite artists, I do put out my own music now on videos as well as the podcast with AI, Suno. And then the conversational AI for therapeutic, long-term life, personal, family, and daily life and skills and reasons is also very important. So a lot of this stuff has become a lot more tool agnostic. And so if you sometimes find that, like, I've built my internal clock and I keep up with it, I will for a few months, if the weather and the seasons change, my sleep will change along with that in a weird pattern, and I will have to manage that throughout the day, throughout the night. Sometimes days and nights might get reversed. But to sit here and say that none of us are human, and that some of us who make a lot of money or do these things never have these problems, I think is kind of like being a little more on the side of life where you have an image, maybe you've written a book or you've taught a lot of this stuff, and I think it's really cool and, to be honest, pretty inspiring and helpful for us who want to change the way our minds work and optimize our lives. But I do think that there's a side that's been lost that's more humane, in saying that sometimes morning routines change, sometimes sleep patterns fluctuate, sometimes you're not managing your time at all, sometimes you're in a mess of chaos through your life. I've been through a lot of chaos in life, even to the extreme of homelessness, to the extreme of taking care of families' medical needs, to the extreme of even taking on responsibilities that should have never been my responsibilities, to the point where you can't always manage time in a neat little app. You can't always. And so that's why productivity is very important, but it's more from a life design, hands-on living perspective now that is not so dependent on external apps and devices, that if you can't find the right app, you're not doing it right, because that takes a lot of time and years of learning. And you can definitely get skills and design skills, technology skills on a lot of these apps. That Notion is very good for learning skills and things like that. ClickUp can be good for optimizing time, and you just kind of do what works. And I would like to do a lot more life design in that when I make the time to do that, because I am creating a lot more content nowadays. And so I tend to sort of like forget a lot of my design learning that I want to do in Notion, or a place like ClickUp or Structured, where I want to track a lot of time and energy and put a lot of notes and have a lot of the sort of all-in-one life systems. But this stuff should be there to help you, not to make you feel, and that's what I've had to really get through, not to make us feel like, I think what happens is we have to unlearn school, because school teaches us such harsh discipline that if we don't do our homework one night, or if we don't, now I'm not saying fail and not do your homework, but if we don't get the right amount of sleep one night, if we don't write the homework down in a planner, if we struggle and ask for our help from a teacher, we're somehow bad. I actually encourage asking for help all the time. That's what the teacher is there for. As long as you're making the effort and we are doing it together and working on things together, you also have the teacher to ask and advocate and all that kind of stuff. And that's just part of team building and communication. And so that's what's interesting about all of this, is we don't necessarily have to spend hours of our time trying to find the perfect productivity app, or the perfect note-taking app, or the perfect calendar blocking system or app or method, even, to make some of this stuff work, because life is going to move on, and you're going to have to like keep up with your life to the point where you're eventually going to run out of energy. You're not going to want to beat yourself up anymore. You're not even going to want to spend time on things anymore that you might actually like. Like, I really do enjoy Notion. I really do enjoy the sort of time building that you can create where you're making your own time in your calendar. I really do enjoy doing the math on that and tracking time in that way, taking notes and building a planner system, all that kind of stuff. But it should be fun. It should be time to yourself. It should not be something that you have to get right from some school assignment. And so we need to start thinking about productivity differently in that way. So I hope that this kind of gives you a way to do that. And I do appreciate you watching, listening, wherever you're getting your podcast, wherever you're getting this video. And Life is Art Reality everywhere. Thanks so much for being here. Take care of yourself, take care of your life, take care of each other. And let's stay connected, as is life is connected.